The first time my ex-husband called me financially illiterate, it was in front of our son's guidance counselor. He leaned back in that tiny plastic chair like he owned the place, folded his arms, and said, "Brianna was never good with money. I handled all of that." I remember staring at motivational poster behind the counselor's head, something about eagles and resilience, and thinking, wow, even that fake bird has more dignity than this moment. My name is Brianna Judson. I'm 42 years old. And for almost 2 decades, I managed every dollar that came in and out of our household. Quietly, efficiently, without applause, without acknowledgement. And for 4 years after my divorce, I let Greg tell the world that I couldn't balance a checkbook. I didn't correct him, not publicly, not even when it started to affect my kids. If you're new here, this is the kind of story we tell on Her Untold Revenge. The quiet ones, the slow burns, the moments when a woman decides she's done letting someone else narrate her life. If you've ever had someone twist your story until even you started doubting it, you're going to understand this one. After the divorce, I moved into a townhouse in GA. Anna. 2 bedrooms, beige carpet, a little patio that faced a pond with ducks that were way louder than you'd expect. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Mine. I worked as a senior accounting analyst for a logistics company in Columbus. Spreadsheets were my comfort zone. Numbers behaved. People didn't. Greg and I had been married 17 years. He worked in regional sales for an equipment supplier, good money when commissions were high, erratic when they weren't. I built our stability around his volatility. I tracked commission cycles. I built reserves. I paid down debt aggressively in high-income years so we could breathe in the slow ones. Greg liked to say he was the provider. I let him say it, because technically his name was on the paychecks. What he never mentioned was that I negotiated the contracts with our internet provider every 2 years, refinanced our mortgage twice at exactly the right moment, built a diversified brokerage account from scratch, and structured our savings so that when 2020 hit and his commissions dropped by almost 40%, we didn't panic. He didn't see that as work. He saw it as just paperwork. You know that tone? That little D? Impossible shrug? Yeah, that one. The divorce wasn't explosive. It was erosion. Greg started staying late more often. Weekend client dinners. His phone fell down on the kitchen counter. Eventually, there was Cheryl. Of course there was. Cheryl Morgan, real estate agent. High heels, bright lipstick. The kind of woman who says, "I just speak my truth," before detonating a bomb at brunch. When we split, I asked for transparency and fairness. I didn't want blood. I wanted accuracy. We went through mediation. I brought binders, color-coded tabs, commission records, investment statements, documentation of every savings transfer I'd made since 2007. Greg rolled his eyes through most of it, but the mediator didn't. In the end, assets were divided equitably. I kept primary control of the investment accounts because I had managed them. He kept his retirement account intact. Spousal support was set for 4 years. And then, almost immediately, the narrative began. Greg told anyone who would listen that I walked away with half of everything he built. At a neighborhood barbecue, I overheard Linda, his mother, say, "Some women are very good at positioning themselves, positioning." Like, I was a chess piece. Natalie was 16 when the divorce finalized. Dylan was 13. Natalie asked fewer questions. She observed. Dylan absorbed whatever was loudest, and Greg was loud. "Your mom never understood risk," he told Dylan once when I dropped him off. "That's why she never had a real career." I stood on the porch and felt that one land in my ribs. Never had a real career. I have an accounting degree from Ohio State. I worked full-time until Natalie was born, then part-time consulting from home while the kids were little. When they got older, I went back full-time. But because I didn't climb a flashy corporate ladder, because I didn't travel for conferences or wear suits with shoulder pads, Greg categorized my work as optional. It wasn't optional when the quarterly tax payments were due, but he didn't remember that, or maybe he chose not to. The real shift started with a scholarship form. Natalie was a sophomore at Ohio State majoring in finance. She called me one Sunday night, her voice tight. "Mom, can you send me your income statements from the last 2 years? I'm applying for this merit-based leadership grant, of." "Course," I said. "I'll email them to." Oh, night. I had them scanned and labeled in under 20 minutes. Greg did not. Weeks passed. Natalie texted him reminders. He sent partial screenshots, cropped documents. Numbers that didn't align. "Mom," she said one evening, "Dad's reported income on this form is way lower than what he told me he makes." I paused. "Okay? And his lifestyle hasn't exactly..." Downsized. Cheryl's Instagram said otherwise. New SUV, kitchen renovation, a trip to Scottsdale. "I'm not accusing him of anything," Natalie said quickly. "It's just, the math feels off. There it was, the itch. I recognized it because it lives in me. When numbers feel off, I told her gently, you gather source documents. There was a long silence. Do you still have everything? She asked. Yes, I did. After the divorce, I had stored digital and physical copies of all joint financial records, not because I planned to use them, but because something in my gut told me I might need them one day. Natalie came home that weekend. She spread papers across my dining table like she was building a case study, investment growth charts, historical commission statements, expense breakdowns. She didn't look Oceanal. She looked analytical. Mom, she said slowly, Dad told us you barely contributed to long-term savings. I swallowed. I know. She flipped a page around so I could see it. A portfolio performance summary. Over 14 years. That's not barely. No, I said quietly. It's not. For 2 months, she worked in the background. I didn't know the details. She asked questions here and there. About when certain accounts were opened. About who made allocation decisions during downturns. About which commissions fluctuated. I answered factually. No editorializing. No bitterness. I had promised myself I wouldn't drag my children into a loyalty war. Then Dylan's graduation party was scheduled, jointly hosted, at a rented event hall in Westerville. 50 guests, both families, teachers, friends. Greg insisted on giving a speech. Of course he did. I almost didn't attend. But Dylan asked me, you'll be there, right? So I wore a pale blue dress and pearl earrings and practiced breathing in the car. The room was decorated with black and gold balloons. A slideshow looped on a projector screen, baby photos, soccer games, prom night. Greg took the microphone after dinner. He started warmly enough, talked about hard work, discipline, sacrifice. Then he said it. I've always believed that providing financially is the foundation of a family. And I'm proud that I was able to give my kids opportunities because I worked my tail off. Polite applause. He continued, not everyone understands money. It takes instinct, risk tolerance, vision. He glanced at me. There it was. Subtle, but sharp. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Linda beamed like he'd just quoted scripture. Then Natalie stood up. She didn't ask for the microphone. She just walked to the laptop connected to the projector. Before we close out tonight, she said, calm as a CFO, I actually added something to the slideshow. Greg frowned. Nat, it's okay, she said lightly. It's about financial foundations. Click. The baby photos disappeared. A graph appeared. Clean. Professional. Labeled. Over the past 17 years, Natalie said, our household investment accounts averaged an annual return of 8.4%. That doesn't happen by accident. The room went still. This chart shows contribution timelines and allocation strategies. The account manager listed on every document. And T is Brianna Judson. My ears rang. Greg stepped forward. What is this? It's data, Natalie replied. She clicked again. A timeline appeared showing key financial decisions, mortgage refinance dates, portfolio rebalancing during market dips, debt payoff milestones. All executed by Mom, she said, while also raising 2 kids and later returning to full-time work. Greg's voice hardened. This is not appropriate. What's not appropriate, Natalie said evenly, is rewriting history. You could hear someone set down a fork. Dylan was staring at the screen like he'd just discovered a hidden chapter of his own life. Natalie turned to him. Your college fund didn't grow because of luck. It grew because Mom moved money strategically every single month, through recessions, through commission slumps. She faced the room again. I'm studying finance, and if one of my classmates presented this data and claimed the account manager didn't work, I'd fail them. A small ripple of nervous laughter. Then silence. Greg tried to recover. We made decisions together. Natalie nodded. You signed documents. She made the decisions. I hadn't coached her. I hadn't even known. She was building this. Greg's face flushed deep red. Linda started to stand, but Frank gently touched her arm and shook his head. Dylan stood up. He walked to me. And in front of everyone, he hugged me. Not the quick, embarrassed teenage kind. The tight, lingering kind. I didn't know, he whispered. It's okay, I whispered back. You do now. Greg left 10 minutes later. No dramatic exit. Just a stiff grab of his jacket and a tight jaw. Cheryl followed. The party resumed slowly. People avoided eye contact at first, then conversations restarted. A few of Greg's cousins approached me quietly. I always suspected, one of them murmured. Frank clinked his glass gently toward me from across the room. Later that night, when I got home, I sat on my patio and watched the ducks argue over crumbs. My phone buzzed. It was Natalie. You okay? I think so, I said. I didn't do it to hurt him, she said softly. I did it because I couldn't stand hearing you diminished anymore. I leaned back in my chair and looked up at the dark Ohio sky. For 4 years, I said, I thought staying quiet was protecting you. It was, she replied. But sometimes protection also means T. Ruth. Greg and Cheryl separated within 6 months. I don't know the details. I didn't ask. I heard through Frank that financial discrepancies surfaced during a joint mortgage refinance attempt. Funny how numbers eventually demand to be read correctly. Dylan chose to major in business analytics. Natalie graduated with honors and now works for an investment firm in Chicago. She still sends me spreadsheets sometimes, just to compare strategies. It's our language. Linda doesn't speak about me anymore. Not kindly, not cruelly, just not at all. And honestly, that's enough. I didn't need revenge. I needed recognition. And I didn't even have to claim it. My daughter did. If you're listening to this and someone has minimized your contribution, called you just anything, just a mom, just a wife, just a part-timer, please hear me. Invisible work is still work. Quiet strategy is still strategy. And documentation? Oh, documentation is power. Keep your records. Keep your integrity. And trust that truth has a way of surfacing, even if it takes a brave 19-year-old with a projector and perfect timing. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to Her Untold Revenge. Share this with someone who needs the reminder that their quiet strength counts. And if you've ever had your story rewritten by someone louder than you, tell me in the comments. I read everyone. I'll see you in the next one.